Seems like we are live. Yes, we are. So we will wait for a few minutes before starting the webinar. I see six people have already joined our live stream. So I would like if you can drop your name, say a hi, tell us where are you joining from, so we can introduce each other. Meanwhile, we wait for other community members to join. Hi, Giovanni. He's joining us from Florence. Nice to see you. Hey, Azana. Nice to see you again. Hi, Giampiero. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Hi, from so nice to see someone joining from Spain. I'm Moses from Nigeria. Cool. So I think it's time to start the webinar. So, hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are joining in this world. I'm Saurav, Senior Developer Community Manager at Apify. You may have seen me in Apify Discord answering your question or attending some office hours. So if you have seen me before, hey, nice to see you again. And if you ever built an actor before, you have probably started with a simple script and thought, this script works great for me, but how do I make it work great for others? The answer is actor schemas and its various kinds. And since the launch of Apify 1 million challenge, it has been one of the most discussed things in our Discord server, and there have been a lot of questions around it. So we thought, why not to invite someone who is expert in this and who have invented this? So we have invited Yaroslav today, who is the senior team lead of console engineering in Apify, and it's the brain behind the team of actor schemas. So Yaroslav, do you want to introduce yourself to the community, and then stage will be all
Yes,
yours?
yes, thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Jarda. That's a short for Yaroslav. And I'm a team lead here at Apify. And the reason why I was chosen to talk to you today about schemas is mainly because I have been the one who developed the initial input schemas, and my team has been responsible for the rest of the schemas that we have introduced over the years. So hopefully during the part where I will explain to you what the schemas are for, I will be able to say it properly. And then when you have any questions at the end, I will be able to actually answer them. Let's see.
Cool. Before starting, I would like to again mention everyone that if you cannot join for the full time, the whole webinar, and if you are if you have some questions regarding actor schema and if you want them to answer, please drop them right now into the comment section or during any time of the webinar. If you have any question in your mind, we won't take questions as early as possible when you mention it in the comment section, but we will answer it in the last 15 to 20 minutes, which is dedicated for the Q&A that we are going to do today. So don't worry, we will answer everything, but in the end of the webinar. So be a little patient, be very helpful. Don't spam the YouTube section, comment section. Post questions regarding actor schemas because which is we are going to talk about today. So yeah, Yaroslav, stage is all yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Saurav. Okay, so let's start. First, small introduction. I would like to prepare you for what I'm gonna talk about today. I will be telling you about each schema that is available currently to use when you are developing your actors. I have them now on screen. We have multiple of them. First is the actor definition schema, which allows you to configure the basic settings of the actor and serves as the glue for the rest of the schemas to actually let us know where we can find them. Next is the input schema. The input schema defines what the users can see when they want to start your actor and how the input is validated. Next is dataset schema, which defines how the results that are stored in dataset are going to be shown to the user through its view property and how it will be validated through its fields property. Next, we have a key value store schema, which defines what is actually in key value store, since it's just a key value storage and there can be anything. So key value store schema allows you to separate it into collections. And next, we have a web server schema, which allows you to define what does a server running inside your actor do, well, if you have one. And finally, the latest one, the one that probably will be the most questions about will be the output schema. I have developed an actor that I will use as a demonstration. Initially, the actor will have no schemas defined, and I will show you one by one what adding the schemas does to the actor and how it affects how it's rendered in the UI and what it does on the background. Everything I'm gonna talk about has been already written down on a blog post on our website. You can find it later on through this QR code, and hopefully I will mention everything the same way or at least similarly. Okay, so let's start. We will start with input schema, but first I will show you the actor that I have developed. For that, I will go here to our console to my demo account, and the actor that I will be working with, I have called StoryMaker. The actor uses AI since it was easier to develop, and its main job is that the user provides some input about a story for a book they want to write, and the actor then uses AI to generate the chapters of the book, including illustrations and everything else. Uh, Currently, the way the actor works is you provide input, you start it up, and it takes the input and generates the chapters. But you can also set the interactive mode to true, and then there's a Express web server running in the background, which allows you to communicate with it and to generate the chapters on the fly, so you don't have to define everything at the start. This is all great, but if you actually look at how it looks on the platform, you can see that there's actually no nice input that the users can define. And if I look at it, there's actually not even any validation. So if I change something here and add a new file, a new option, it does nothing, which is not great because then the users do not actually know what's the input that they should provide to your actor. This is something that probably everybody in the chat already knows. So I will go over input schema quickly because I don't think anybody implements actors anymore without it. So first version that I will show you is with input schema implemented, which is the version 1. As you can see, I have added to the actor JSON file my input schema, and I have defined the input schema here. Since probably almost everybody has used input schema, I will focus now mainly on the new features that I have that not me, but my team has added over the last few months. We have 3 new features, which are very interesting and hopefully will be useful to everybody. First new feature that we have defined is the option to define subdocuments in your schemas. This means that you no longer need to only have everything on a single layer of the JSON document. You can use subdocuments and they are validated and they use the same input fields as you are used to. Uh, to use this, you have to define either an object or an array as a field, and as the editor, provide the schema-based option. The schema-based option tells us that, hey, the subdocuments in this have their own schema and will be rendered using it. So this is how it looks in the code. And if I show you how it looks on the platform, I can switch to the version 1 with the input schema and show you that when we go here to chapters, we now have this nice view of each chapter as its separate element. We can add more, we can delete them, and we can even reorder them using the drag and drop. This is the first new feature of input schema. It has been highly requested, so I hope everybody will enjoy using it. Second new feature of input schema that I wanted to show you is this new option when you use select fields. In select fields, it was often mentioned that the current system of enum titles and enum values is too strict because users cannot provide the values themselves. So when they try to use the select, they have to pick one of the options. And it can be very complicated when, for example, you want to add categories, for example, to be able to be selected from some website, but the website has 200 categories. So you want to add like the 10 important ones and then let the user write whatever they want if they want something else. That wasn't possible before. Now it is. You can use the enum suggested values to define what the user can select. But if they do not want one of these, they can write themselves. Again, I will show you how it works. So if I go here to the model selection, now I have here the options that I have provided to the users. But the user can also close this, and I have given them here the link to the available models from OpenRouter. So I can just pick one of them and go back to my StoryMaker actor and insert it there and say to use it. And now it's available and the user can provide their own value instead of the ones that you have defined in the select. That's, again, hopefully something that will be useful to some of you. I think it's going to be less useful than the subdocuments, but still a nice feature to have. I will switch it back to Gemini Flash so that when we actually run it, it will run fast. And finally, for input schema, we have added one more new feature, and that is defined here somewhere in the, here, chapter storage name. So for chapter history storage name, I have defined a pattern validation. I want to be able to check what the user provided using regex value. Issue with the pattern validation that many people have reported over time, and that has always been a pain for everybody, is that when the validation fails, it just gives them an error that says, hey, the validation for this field failed because it doesn't match this large regex value, which is for a normal user very confusing. So we have introduced this new option called error message. This allows you to define a custom error message for the type of validation that fails. So in this case, I have defined it for the pattern validation. And this will replace the normal validation message with your own. So if you want to be more user-friendly, you can define your own message that will explain them exactly what they did wrong and what they can figure out, what they can do better. So again, I can show you on the platform. If I go here to chapter history and write something that's not letters and numbers, so I will do like something like this. You can see that now the error message is available under it, and it's very easy to use for the users. Well, at least we hope it will be. So that's for input schema. While I'm looking at this like this, I hope everybody knows how sections and section descriptions, and that you can use Markdown in your section descriptions, that you know everything like that. If you don't, please take a look at our documentation for input schema. We have tried to write everything there as best as we can. We are still probably going to be rewriting it a little bit to make it more informative, but so far we had great feedback. So if you have any questions about the documentation and about anything, please keep them, leave them for me at the end. Okay, so if we go back to the presentation, I have here a link to the documentation, and then there's another link to my StoryMaker actor, to the pull request that introduces the input schema. So you can actually look at the different changes as I'm introducing them during the video. You can look at it after. Here's a small recap. So the new features of input schema is the schema-based editor, the enum suggested values for selects, and the custom error messages for validations. Good. That's it when it comes to input schema. Now, if I go back to my actor and show you how, when I run it, what happens. So I will start it up. I hope I haven't changed anything too much to break it. What the actor does currently is it uses the Gemini 2.5, I think, to generate the chapter text and then generate illustrations using Gemini Flash, and then store everything to dataset, and store the final generated files also to key value store. So once the illustration is finished, we should see in the output a new record that tells us that one chapter is done. And I think I have it configured to do 2 chapters. So now if we switch to the output, it should soon give us an information that there's new data. Let's see, we will have to wait for it. This is working on the next illustration. We have the first item pushed to the data set, and you can see that we have data here. But why I'm showing this data is currently completely unstructured and without any schema definition or whatever. It's just how it's pushed to the data set. This is the default view how we render data sets if you do not provide any views. And it's not great. There's the attribution at the start. It's sorted by the alphabet, and it's very confusing. So we can improve that, and improving that, that's what dataset schema is for. So again, the dataset schema documentation and the example that I will show you in a second. And I can switch here to the next version. I will let it run so that we can have the data ready when we get there, and I will show you how the dataset schema look. So I will check the next version, and we can see that there is a new file here called dataset schema. We have the actor.json updated with the new storages section and the dataset schema linked there. And the dataset schema itself defiles 2 different things. I will close this one for now and start with the views because that's visual and easier to explain. So in dataset schema, the views that you define control how the data is rendered on the platform to the user. And also they are available through API to help limit the fields and define predefined transformations so that the user do not have to do it themselves. So in this case, my overview view does a simple transformation. It only takes some of the fields from the dataset, because I do not need anything else when I want to show the users what they have generated. So in this case, I have taken URL of the illustration of the image that is generated, chapter number, chapter name, what's the chapter about, and the URL of the final generated file. And maybe if we later on do some edits, this draft number allows us to see like which edit it is we are on. And the next section after transformation defines the how it's displayed in the UI. This one is, I recommend always going to the documentation to see what are the different options, since this is a completely custom format that's not like standardized. So you will have to learn it yourself by looking through the documentation. In this case, I'm showing first the illustration and I'm using the URL, but I want to show it as an image. Yeah. Okay, but I want to show it as an image. Then we have the chapter number, which is displayed as number. The rest is displayed as text. And the final HTML file, I want to link it to the user so that they can easily open it. If I go to the platform now, I see that it failed on a second on the second chapter, but that's okay. What we wanted to see mainly was how the data set will be structured. And as you can see, we now have the view defined exactly as I defined it in the code. So first is image, next is the chapter number, then there's the chapter name, the summary, and the link to the file, which if I open up, you can see that defines the whole text of the chapter with the illustration and everything. So that's great. That worked perfect. We are gonna ignore that it failed on some random error. It's AI, it just generates sometimes random things. That's fine. So let's go to the next part, the fields of dataset schema. Like, what does it mean? For us, the fields is probably even more important than views because the views define just how the dataset look. But the fields actually define what's in the dataset, which is extremely important when you are going to be using the actor as part of some other integration, or when you want somebody else to rely on the data in the actor. So the fields allow you to define exactly what each item in the dataset will look like based on its JSON schema. This is pure JSON schema, nothing special added from our side. So any JSON schema generator that you can find online, or probably ChatGPT or any other LLM, should be able to generate it. And as you can see, there are like few things that you can define. You can define the the field name, its type, its description, and very soon you will also be able to provide an example of what the value will be. This is very important because we will show this on the website when the actor is open, on the information tab. So users will actually able to see what the values will be in the store, so they will know immediately what to expect. We will probably even use it to define like an example results table and stuff like that. So if you can provide examples, do it. It's much better for everybody. Next, when you define the fields, also it's JSON schema, so you can define what is required and what's not. I hope that's understandable. Now, when you define this fields property on the dataset schema, some things happen on the platform that I think is very important for you to know. One, when you try to push data, it can fail. It can fail on validation because every single push request we will validate it because you have provided this schema and we validate each item. When that happens, I will show you how it can be handled. So I have here in my code, I'm calling this push data call, which pushes the final data into the dataset. And down here, whenever this is called, I have implemented a try catch, which checks the error that I have received if it contains this information. This information tells you, hey, the push data call failed, and in the invalid items is a list of each item that failed with its own validation error. So I have it implemented here, and I'm logging it as an exception to be able to clearly show, okay, it failed because of this issue. Usually what will happen is you are probably scraping some website, they changed some value. For example, you are expecting price to be a number and they suddenly changed it to like some, for example, saying that there's sale in front of the number, and you are now scraping sale and number and it's a string. So instead of now having a bunch of invalid dataset data, the actor will immediately fail and let you know. This can be very useful. It can also catch you off guard. So please be sure to always know how to handle the invalid items when it happens and to implement this part of the code. Next, there's one more thing that happens when you implement fields, and that is that in your run, on the results tab, this number appears up here. This number tells the user how many of the items in the storage are actually filled in. And by filled in, I mean whether they are defined. So we consider it defined if it's not undefined or null. So whatever is defined in some random value, even if it's empty string, it counts as defined value. The rest, nulls and undefines, will lower this 100% number. And this users can hide this through this validation statistic field checkbox. Okay, I think that's it for dataset schema. I have nothing else to say. So let's go to the next part that I don't like about my actor. So if you take a look, so as you can see here, I'm storing some stuff in key value store. What I'm storing in key value store is actually almost everything that the actor does. So I'm storing the communication between the actor and the LLM. I'm storing the drafts that were generated, and I'm storing the final files that can later be used to, for example, send them to a publisher to press the book and stuff like that. So I would like to show this to the users, but I do not want them to see the input, the communication, the status page. That's something that they shouldn't care about when they want to export the data. That is why we have added the key value store schema. So I will show that to you next. So if I check out the V3 and switch here to the next version, which is, sorry, I have to switch back to the actor, to the version 3 and start it again, we should soon see it. So what changed? We have added another schema here. This time we have key value store, and the schema itself is very simple. It's hopefully not complicated. The key value store has very limited range of options, so this will hopefully be very easy to define, but I hope everybody will be using it because it helps provide clarity for users. So in the actor key value store schema, you define something that we call collections. Collections serve as I would call folders, as organization systems for the items in key value store. So here I have defined 3 collections. One is called final, and it serves as a collection for the final chapter data. How to identify the collection in the key value store? We use prefixes for the file names. So in this case, I have decided that all the files that have the prefix final will go to the final collection. Then I have a draft collection, which works similarly for drafts. And then I have communication collection, which organizes all of the different debugging data for the communication with the LLM. Uh, the collections also allow you to do a validation. The validation only supports options to validate the content types of the files that are uploaded to key value store. So in this case, I have only allowed the files that I expect to be there in the key value store, which is text files for some logs, the JSON file with the generated data, PNG for the illustration, and the HTML file with the final chapter as it's rendered. Same goes for the drafts, and for the communication, I have only allowed text plain for the log. There is one more options that I haven't shown here. If you store only JSON files in some collection, and all the JSON files have the same schema, you can actually provide the schema here, and we will validate every single item that's written into the key value store, into the collection, if it actually is valid against the schema. Again, it uses the normal JSON schema, and I recommend you going to the documentation for key value store to learn how it's done. I haven't done it here because it's out of scope of this talk. Now, I have run it with the key value store schema. So now if I go to storage and take a look at the items, I can see that I have the all keys here, same as before. So the whole key value store. But now I can switch here to final chapters and only see the generated chapter data, which is very important because we have added one more feature, and that is this button here that actually allows you to download the data directly as a zip file. So this way I can provide to users only the files they need and to allow them the option to download it immediately as a zip file. It's streamed, you don't have to do anything else, they will just have the data right away. Okay, that's for key value store schema. I hope the schema is simple, so we will see when you if there will be any questions later. Next one, this schema is a little bit more tricky because we are still missing some things that are supposed to be implemented soon. The web server schema is very important if your actor is actually running some web server inside it. So when you start the run and there is some web server running there, nobody actually knows how to use it. Even like if you take a look at my definition, at my actor, there's actually no indication how to use the web server. So if I switch here to the version 4 with the web server schema, there's still nothing else here, and nothing will change even in the run data. I will first show you how it's defined. V4. We have added the web server schema here, and we have added the actor.json the web server here in the actor.json file. This is all you have to do. The web server schema is not a JSON schema. It's the only schema that's different. It's defined as an open API schema. This is because that's the standard for defining schemas for APIs. And again, there are multiple tools that help you generate the schema and actually pass it into the actor. Here in my schema, I have defined what the web server running on my actor does. I can see here that there's some get endpoint, which gives us some interactive status page. There's a post endpoint, which allows us to generate new chapters. There's a status, which gives us just the JSON data of the chapters. And there's an option to call exit, which will stop the actor from running. Because when we started in the interactive mode with the web server running, there's actually no way to stop it without calling the exit endpoint. And if the user doesn't know what the exit endpoint is, they will not be able to stop it. So that's why you should probably use the schema. Currently, it's not visible in the UI. You can only get to it like this by going to the build and seeing the actor definition there. So it's very useful for LLMs currently, but very soon we will render this schema directly in the console. So when the run starts, everybody who is accessing the runs will be able to see, hey, there's some web server running, and this is the schema that it's using. So again, if you have an Express server running in your run, consider providing web server schema. Very soon it will be very useful. Again, I have provided the example. Oh, oops. I have provided the example here so that you can see how it's added. And finally, probably the one that everybody is waiting for is the output schema. The output schema is on my StoryMaker actor version 5. So I will open it up. I will start the interactive mode. And I will run the actor so that we have something to work with in a second. So, version 5. There will be, again, only a single change. Into actor.json file, we have added here output. And I have added here output schema file. The output schema has hopefully a very simple structure. It defines which output the actor has as its separate property, and then what the output actually is controlled through the template property. The template is just a URL link to anywhere that you can use variables in to point to make it easier for you to use. So I have defined 5 outputs here. First output that I have defined is a link to the default key value store. In the default key value store, I'm storing a file called status.html, and the status.html file always shows what the actor is currently doing, including the generated chapters. So if I look at my actor here, I can see that there's this status page, the current state of the run, and it shows us the generated chapter that has been finished. I can actually see that my actor is failing. So let's see why it's failing. Maybe I have actually done something wrong. Oh, I know what I have done wrong. I have probably removed something from the input. So give me a second. Oh yeah, this is why it was failing the whole time. I removed the description of the chapter. Okay, so let's run it again so that we can actually use the interactive mode. So I have shown you the status page. Next page is the interactive mode that I have defined. This is probably something that I recommend to almost everybody to use if your actor does anything complicated. This allows you to connect to the inside of the actor through the web server and just serve any kind of a website or UI that you want to have for your actor. So if your actor requires any kind of interactivity from the user, that usually before you had to use live view for it, and it was difficult for users to find, now you can directly point users, hey, the default output of this actor is this interactive UI that you can use while the actor is running. In my case, I have it implemented here as the second output. So if I open it up, it opened up this interactive view. I can see here the generated chapter, that's the number 1. And I have provided a very simple UI that allows me to create a new chapter. It allows me to refresh the current status. And once the chapter is generated, it should appear in the UI and I can go over it. This is hopefully very simple. We will see how long it takes to actually generate the image. That's the longest part always. Let's see. 3, 2, 1. Now? Yes. Good. I have run it so many times that I almost have it in my head. Okay, so I see that it generated a new chapter and I can interact with it. Ideally, I would add some options to like edit the chapter and other features like that. Now that I have this, I can show you the next 3 outputs. Next one is a link to the key value store again, but this time, instead of linking to a single file, I'm linking to a collection. We defined the collections before in the key value store schema. Now I can actually use the power of the collections to directly show the user only what they need to see. In this case, I want them to only see the final files. I don't want them to go to the all keys and everything like that. So if I go to the third item here, I have the final documents and images, and that will show us the final chapters with everything that's defined there. Currently, there is no download button here, but it will soon be there. It's a next part of our plan when it comes to the output schema UI. Next, another output that I have defined is the option to link to the dataset. Again, I'm linking to the default dataset and to its items, and I'm showing the overview view right away. I'm not showing, if I showed it like this, it would show the default the dataset view that you are used to, the one that you see if there's no output schema defined. If you define the view right away, it will only show, it will not allow you to do, it was overview, right? It will not allow you to do anything else. Okay, so if we go here to chapter draft history, I can see my view as we had it before, with everything from the dataset available. Now, I think that's all that I wanted to show, but since the template is basically any URL, that means that you can do anything here. So, for example, for some of you, it might be interesting to show the URL, to show in the window, like, for example, the page that you were scraping, like how it looked. So you can link directly to the page. Or you can have your own custom dashboard running on some other website where you will show like all the data to the user. So you can just link to your own custom dashboard. If you do that, we allow it to do it in the iframe that's displaying the data, but we will show the user that you are pointing to an external website, just as a warning so that nobody can easily abuse it. There's one more thing when it comes to output schema. Oh, I still have it running, so I can actually go to the interactive mode and call the exit function that I have on my web server, which will stop the run from running. As you can see now, we are done. Okay, so there's one more thing for output schema. It's mainly information for the future, since if you are going to be developing it now, I want you to know like what are our future plans. Well, two important things actually. One is that this selector for the interactive mode, we are currently working on a better UX that shows more items right away, so that not that many items are hidden under the select feature. And second thing is that we are currently, if you show a data set as one of the outputs, we are automatically adding this all fields button. But we have gotten feedback that told us that this is not something that our developers want, because you can now control it, like where to show the all fields. So this will always add the whole all fields, but you might not want to do it, or you want to have it as the last type of output. So we will be removing this, and you will have to define the all fields yourself by just adding it as another type of input. And finally, something that hopefully will be useful for some of you, we are planning to add an option to use in as variables here in the code the input provided by the user. So what this means is that in the input schema, I have, for example, this chapter history storage name. So user could provide a name for example, a data set. And you could go here to your output schema and say that the final draft history will be in this data set. So you could do input and the chapter storage name, and then you would just have to configure the URL properly to work. So apify.com v2 datasets. And now this way you could in the future link to another storage from that the user has defined and given you. I hope that this will be implemented very soon. We are currently just ironing out some kinks because there are some things that currently do not work with this logic. So it's not done yet. We will let you know as soon as possible once this is available because we feel like this is very important for the named for the users to be able to use named storages and for you to be able to show them in the output. Also, this means that if you have some storage defined on your account, you can always do something like I think it's this. Uh, to show the output, but just be aware that if you do this, every single user of your actor will always be pointed to the same storage and it needs to be public. So this is not as useful as the input variables, which we'll be adding later on. Okay, I think that's it for the output schema. Maybe one last thing, when you have a run that has output schema defined, if you call the get endpoint, there will be output section defined at the end with all of the, oh, that's very small, but it's okay, with all of the outputs defined. So it's available for LLMs, AIs to be able to directly continue to the next link to get the data. Okay, I think that's it. So questions?
Yeah, thank you so much, Yada, for the presentation. I think you already answered so many questions that people were asking in the comments, and there are few appreciations for you in the comment section already. Uh, Azuzana is saying the validation percentage is so cool. Luis is also appreciating the changes that you bring, sub-documents, drop-down free form, and pattern error messages. He says he love it.
Mhm.
So
Okay, great.
many of
That's
the community
awesome.
members already like what you and your team are implementing from a long time. Yeah, there are few questions, but I want to remind community that we have 10 to 15 minutes for the Q&A session. So if you have more questions, drop in the comment section. I will pick each one of them if we have enough time. But we will quickly start from the first question, and it is from Azuzana. He says, "Is there an option for dependent inputs? For example, he want to select with A and B, and when user pick one of the options A or B, the UI shows only the related input fields."
Yes, that's an actually a question that we have been receiving for almost 6 years now, and it's something that's currently in being worked on. You can still hear me, right? Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's currently being worked on, but there's a big issue. We call this feature conditional fields to allow users to display parts of the input based on the value of another input. But to do this properly, we need to make sure that this works on all the different integrations and platforms that we work with. And sadly, this is proving very tricky. So we have been working on this for a while, and we have many different ways to implement it. But so far, we haven't been able to do it properly so that it supports everything. So hopefully, we will be able to do it. But currently, it's not looking like it will be done very soon.
Cool. Thank you. There is a question from Louis, and he says, when there are invalid items, I believe the entire
Mhm.
row will fail. Would it be possible to have just one field fail, or is that not a good practice?
Yeah, this is a design decision that we took when we were implementing the validation. We were not sure like what's the best option, like whether to store the items that are valid and then return just the invalid items back. But after testing it and after asking some users about it, we learned it's better to just throw everything out and allow the users to basically filter it themselves. But this is actually something that will be that's connected to a future work that I haven't said yet. We are working on the option to provide multiple storages to a single run. So the idea was that you would take the items that failed, filter them out, keep the ones that are valid and store them as normal, and then take the ones that are invalid and store them in a separate data set for invalid data.
Perfect. Thank you. There are two questions which I want to answer very quickly for everyone. Will repo will be public? Yes, repo will be public, and you can look into the links that are shared on the presentation, and you can go to those links later on. I will also add it to the description of the webinar later on. The second one is, will this webinar be available in the YouTube channel? Yes, it will. It is recorded live, and we will edit it and add it to YouTube later on as well, so you can look at it into later. There are more questions from Lewis. Are there other actors on the store that use the web server schema and he can look into?
Uh, that's actually a question that I don't know, to be honest. I think there for sure are other actors that use like internally some web servers. Like for example, many standby actors and others use web servers internally. But I'm actually not sure if they have the web server schema defined yet. Since it's not visible in the UI currently, it's only used for like LLMs. So I think only like very I would call it pedantic actor developers would probably have the web server schema developed now. But I'm pretty sure once we add it to the UI and everyone will be able to see it, there will be more actors. Even some actors that are developed by Apify internally.
Thank you. I want to again remind we have few more minutes, so you can drop more questions into the comment section. I see one more question. Uh, I have actors with intermediate results. I scrape results and then I do summary calculation on those results. I use two different data set for this. How would I make
Ah,
best these available to the users?
huh. That's a good question. So, if I understand it correctly, you have a first actor that does some work and then sends it to second actor to process it.
Uh,
And to be honest, yes,
no,
uh,
no, no.
like to be honest, I think the output schema currently does not have a good way to support it because it's defined before you start the actor. So any data sets that are created dynamically will not be possible to be linked there. But maybe it could be done in a hacky way that if you have like multiple data sets, you could define one data set for like the processed data and then send it to the second actor as the place where the processed data should be processed. Then once this is done, you could link it in the output, the second data set directly, and it should work. This is because the multiple data sets feature that we are working on is going to be very powerful for these things. We will have to provide many more examples of it for the output schema and the multiple data sets in our documentation.
Cool. Louis, can you clarify if these are two actors or two different actors or one actor in the comment section? We'll take this question again because someone else commented that no, it's the same actor, I believe. So we will take this question again. If
Oh,
it's the same actors, then we will come to this again.
oh,
Oh, okay. So
if it's the same,
Louis
uh-huh.
says it's the same actor. It's one actor.
Okay, so if it's the same actor, then yes, once we define the option to provide multiple schemas, to provide multiple data sets, which I hope will be soon, because we have the specification already almost ready and approved. You will be able to just link in the output both data sets immediately without any input from the user. For example, you would define like a default data set and process that data set in actor.json file, and then in output schema you would say that you want to show the items from the process data set.
Cool. Thank you so much, Yada, for taking time to answer all of the question. I think this is we are up with the time, and there are no more questions in the comment section. So thank you so much for joining us and giving time to the community and answering all of the questions. I think it helped a lot. Uh, at last, I would like to invite a community to our Discord server where we do weekly office hours like these, where we have you will have me or someone from Apify team answering all of your questions regarding Apify 1 million challenge or building actors. There are more than 13,000 developers, and all of the developers are very helpful in creating, in helping to you to create these actors. So be there, join us. You can scan this QR code, and we will see you very soon in our Discord or in the next webinar we have on our YouTube channel. So bye bye, sayonara.
Thank you everyone for joining.